Welcome to Staffing Stories, hosted by Andy Moss. Andy has been in the staffing industry for over 25 years, first as a recruiter, then eventually an account manager and business owner. This is the podcast where we sit down with fellow staffing owners to get the real stories of the successes, the failures, and the lessons learned along the way.
And we're back with Staffing Stories. I'm your host, Andy Moss, and we are on episode 36. And it is amazing that I was just talking to our guest about, man, 36, that's a lot. So we're happy. So we will not keep you from our guests. And this is a good friend of mine and neighbor, because he's here in Knoxville, Jason Leverant from the COO and president of AtWork. And I know most of you recognize him because he's all over the ASA and conferences. So welcome to the show, and I'm super pumped to have you on.
Man, likewise. It's awesome, and so glad to support a fellow Knoxvillian, right? East Tennessee, and go Vols.
Go Vols. That's right. We won't play Rocky Top for everybody. We'll save everybody, turning down their volume, but maybe one day we'll play it at the end. So Jason, introduce yourself to those that are out there that may not know who you are.
Yeah, man. So thanks again, Andy. Again, you just heard President and Chief Operating Officer of the AtWork Group. And AtWork, it's funny because when I look in the mirror, I'm a staffing guy, right? So AtWork is a national staffing company. We've got offices in 29 states. We've got 100 plus locations. But the reality is we're actually a franchisor. So we help people come into the staffing industry. We give them the training, we give them all the resources. So most of our offices, I'd say 90% of our locations are franchise owned. We have our own company owned stores, and actually, kind of breaking news, I'm opening my own first franchise. My wife would kill me if I didn't give her the credit. That's her franchise in Maryville, actually. So right down the road from us. So.
Well, nice job. I would say you're going to lose your hair, but that's already started.
Too late, man. Too late. Sorry.
It's that is great. And, we've talked to large companies. We've talked to small companies. I've talked to, individuals that do their own retained search. And to now, we've not talked to this franchisor model. And it's very interesting. And I want to expand on that because there's a lot of people out there that's like, how does that work? And,
Yeah. Well, it's crazy because I look at, our footprint's pretty big, right? Our total combined revenue is pretty big. But at the end of the day, I feel like we're a group of small staffing firms waving the same banner. I mean, because each of our locations is independently owned. So I've just got this group of owners. And while everybody kind of follows similar process, uses a lot of the same tools and resources, at the end of the day, that's what really makes it special, is because we can help people who want to get into the industry, who want to, who see, man, that's a great opportunity. We give them all the tools and resources so they don't have to worry. Like the starting a business aspect is kind of the hard part. And we help a lot. So many of those pieces we take off the table, and they don't have to worry about the payroll process, insurance risk, all that, the hard stuff. And we leave the fun stuff, recruiting and sales. So,
well, I don't know if that's fun, but
I know, right? It's fun if you're crazy.
But if you say it's fun, it's fun.
Yeah.
Running a business and operating a business is extremely hard, and scaling a business is even harder. And I know some of your franchise owners own several different AtWorks in different markets and stuff. I mean, different divisions.
Yeah, scaling is crazy because you can do it. I mean, quite literally, somebody could get into the industry with a relationship with one company. Hey, my buddy runs the hiring for this factory over here. Yeah, give me some people. Okay, I'm in the staffing business, right? I found some people. I set up a bill rate. But then you start thinking, oh man, like funding, payroll funding. If you don't have the cash and liquidity, because this is like for some people who look at our industry, they don't realize, oh my gosh, there's like payroll. People want to be paid on Friday, right? But our clients don't necessarily want to pay us every Friday. I mean, I wish we got weekly pay like that, but
I tell people we're the bank.
Yeah, literally, we're like, we don't want to be the bank. We don't want to be your insurance company. We want, but that's the reality, right?
The reality of it, we're issuing credit for 4 to 6, not 12 weeks. And
So
that's,
then you say, hey, give me 100 people. And I'm like, that's 100 people worth of payroll for 6 weeks, for 9 weeks. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. So
you'll outrun your cash really quick.
That does sound crazy, man. What are we doing? This is wild, man.
Well, I mean, it is interesting. We do little for as much money as a staffing company, recruiting agency put out, especially light industrial, to an organization and not do the credit checks and stuff like that. You'll be amazed how many companies probably do that. Oh, I'll issue.
That's what, and that's what we do. We have a whole credit department because that's such a big risk, the risk management side of it. So yeah, but it's interesting because we take a lot of that, lift it off of our owners, and we give them this opportunity to basically, again, focus on selling, bring them to the table. We help them through all the experience and stuff. So yeah, it's cool.
So how did you get into this, Jason? I mean, for those of us, they may know AtWork, but they don't know you. So
yeah. I'll walk back to when I was a young boy. I wasn't that young, but it's funny because I fell into the industry. I actually came from the golf industry, which is, people are like, wow, why would you leave the golf industry? That's really pretty fun industry, and I will agree, it is a really fun industry when you work in it. My dad had run golf courses my entire life growing up, and he ended up running a very large manufacturing company, Dunlop Golf. I don't know if you're familiar with Dunlop, the brand. They sold a lot in Walmart and things like that, more of the kind of entry point for golf. I joined, kind of interned in customer service, then went into marketing, got a little taste of this kind of national scope of bringing a product to market, which was awesome. I mean, the guy I work for is now the CEO of Bridgestone, Srixon Golf. He's the guy who came up with the name, the Noodle, Max Fly Noodle, if you guys know the noodle ball back in the day. But so a lot of great exposure. But, that was a licensee. So maybe my first taste into the whole franchise license world, that was a licensee where that license basically was up. It was a 25-year license. There was some transition happening. So the UK company effectively took the brand back over. So I was in a position, okay, I'm not moving to the UK, and that wasn't really an opportunity for me. So I got to do something. And I started knocking on doors, trying to find a job. This wasn't our economy today where there's people, there's jobs coming out of our ears. So I was looking for work, and I thought, man, I'm going to be, like my dad. He used a headhunter. He used to get these things in the mail, like these literally like mailers that would have all these great jobs and, hey, look at this opportunity, look at this opportunity. So I'm going to go find that. And started knocking on doors of temp agencies, and I had no idea what I was doing. So, they're looking at me saying, yeah, we don't have VPs of marketing manager, marketing director. We don't have those roles. But at Randstad and at Apple One, of all places, they both were like, hey, your experience would kind of align. Have you ever thought about working in one of our offices? And so I went through the hiring process, and it's like the stars aligned because I was looking for work for like months and got an offer by both Randstad and Apple One on the exact same day. So it's like, I was telling my wife, I'm like, wow, this is like meant to be, right? I'm supposed to be in the staffing industry. So ultimately I accepted the offer with Randstad. It just worked better for my family, and kind of the rest is history. I started there in Greenville, South Carolina. So, very quickly realized that sales was my strong suit, and they had me moving to different markets, trying to open up, spinning up new branches. And so my wife, her family was here in Knoxville, so she was very, interested in getting back to Knoxville. Randstad, allowed me an opportunity to transfer. But I had this taste, man. I had this like desire being with the golf company, doing stuff like national trade shows, big scope. Being hemmed into a tiny market was a little hard for me. I felt like I had more to give. Yeah. And so an opportunity with AtWork came up to be VP of sales. And so I distinctly remember going on. It was on Hot Jobs. It doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, I know. Hot Jobs. You're the biggest customer back in the day of Hot Jobs, right? I know I was. I'm a big component now, man. But anyways, Hot Jobs, I applied to this opportunity. I told my wife, I'm like, yeah, I applied to this job. There's no way I don't know how I'm going to get this job. And that night at like 10 o'clock, I get an email from the CEO of the company, the founder, the guy who I run the organization for today, saying, hey, saw your resume. Our guys will call you tomorrow. And after like a 4-month interview process, I finally landed the gig, and kind of the rest the rest is history for me. So in 2007, I joined AtWork, and I've been here ever since, and done a whole lot. Pretty much served in every role, from cleaning the bathrooms to selling franchises to training them. Did a little bit of everything, man. So.
Well, it's amazing. I've talked to so many owners, and either they're athletes or they were hired through an agency, and have worked their way up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they literally walked in the door like a customer and got into it. So
Yeah.
it's funny to hear that from you as well, as like, hey, I got my job through an agency or a board or something like that. But
Yeah.
that's
It wasn't intentional. I had no idea what I was looking for. And just to stay in golf, you got to go to Southern California or Boston or whatever. And I, again, had to be in Knoxville.
So family's really important to you, what I know of you.
Oh, yeah.
And that is something you've never put on a shelf. You said like family's first. Is that, I mean, explain
yeah,
to
man,
the owners like how you balance that, because that's what I respect in you so much is you don't sacrifice the home life for the work life.
Yeah, that is something that from the beginning of my career, like I set the tone with my employer, whoever I'm working with, like that's priority for me. And I don't let things get in the way of that priority. Obviously, I did a podcast once, and I think they titled it like Home for Dinner Every Night or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole idea for me, and honestly, growing up, I didn't have that as much because the focus in a hospitality industry, when you're, my dad running a hotel or running a golf courses, you're there all the time.
Yep.
I didn't want that. I wanted to be present. And so I made it a point that, I focus my day very, very heavily. I schedule myself very, very heavily. I adhere tightly to a schedule. So when I'm at work, I am in the zone working. And when I'm home, I'm able to, decouple, focus, and then, put the kids to bed. I do what I need to do later on the evenings. But I mean, at the end of the day, I put the focus, what's in my mind, what's most important. I have to get the same to you, man. I see the pictures of the kids right there on your desk. They're over here off camera, but I feel you. And that's, we are very aligned on that front, man. You got to be present and there for them, because those are the memories that you're going to think about.
Oh, yeah. You don't get it back.
Yeah. When you're 60 or 70, not, man, that meeting that I had back in 2023, it was awesome. No, it's the times you have with your family. That's what's so important. So,
well, I've got twins getting ready to start college. One at Ole Miss, one at Tennessee, and I mean, it just, when people say it flies by, it certainly does. But one of the things I did with my wife earlier is I gave her access to my calendar, and she realized, oh, you can share these things. It's like, oh yeah, you can put things on it. Oh, that just opened it up to. I look at my calendar and it's like there's something on it. It's like Ella has a dance thing, But if you don't put it like that and do it, you're going to miss it.
Yeah, you got to act and you put it in place. And guess what? For me, and I tell people this, listen, it's not held me back from achieving my personal and professional goals at work. If you put it in priority and you focus and you work hard, you do what you need to do and do it the best of your ability, it's not going to hold you back. And then you get people like you saying, man, look, you're focusing on your family. Now it becomes a positive. And it's not like, oh man, he's not focused on his job. I absolutely am. But I also have focus on my family too. So
it keeps you grounded. So
Yep.
Kudos to you on that. All right. So you are a board member to the ASA. I don't know why they signed you up for that, but that's their, they got a great guy in you. But walk me through your relationship with the ASA, and you've been heavily involved with the Tennessee chapter of the ASA, nationally, but.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, man. I back in the day, so when I look at, again, being that franchisor, I need to, make sure that I'm staying ahead of the industry for our franchisees. That's where I kind of started. I was like, all right, I need to put myself out there to know what's going on and also what's coming down the pipeline. So for the last, since I started with AtWork, I really got heavily involved with ASA. I'd say the tipping point where I really amped up was around the Affordable Care Act. And, the industry was kind of in a panic, like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? How are we going to comply with this? So I was like, all right, I'm going to the source, lobbying legislative, what's going on? So I started embedding myself pretty closely with ASA at that point. So we're talking like 2010, 2011, before it actually hit the airwaves. But then that bug got in me from a networking perspective. I made a lot of tremendous connections in the industry. And those connections I still maintain today. I mean, they've served in such a positive way. And I feel like I've been able to give back in a positive way. But at the end of the day, it's those relationships that I've developed through my engagement on the association side that have lent, I think, so much to my success in the industry. Because when something goes down or you need assistance or you need help, I have someone who's got experience, who's been through it before, to reach out to and get that feedback from and get that advice.
There's not many places that have a centralized repository of information and data and contacts in our.
Yeah. Oh, it's huge. It's kind of the best of all worlds there. Yeah.
If you are a small business owner, a small staffing, medium size, even large, even huge, I would encourage you to not push that off. I've done that in the past. I'm not going to the conference this year.
Yeah.
Well, you will get in a situation legally or something that you're going to need information, and that membership has been invaluable. So when you look at that organization as a board member, what are things you looking out in the future that you're seeing, you're talking about that we as owners, operators need to be aware of?
I think in my mind, one of the most important aspects, and this is something that I've teed up in conversations, and I'm the newest board member, so I'm like the rookie going in, like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. I'm so green, and they're probably like, "Oh, you'll learn," but I'm bringing all this stuff to the table, man. But I'll tell you, for me, it's the perception of the industry, and I step back. In Tennessee, we're a little bit sheltered. We got a great state to do business in. It's relatively easy to do business in our state versus the rest of the country. But think about New York, New Jersey, California, Massachusetts. These are states that are more challenging to do business in. So in looking at that, I see this issue from a legal and legislative perspective that the perception of the industry is not as positive as what it needs to be. There's a lot of misconceptions, and we're seeing legislation coming down and getting signed into law. And I'm primarily thinking about the New Jersey law that's recently come into play.
Yep.
That shows me that we got a perception issue, we got a marketing issue, and as an industry. And for me, I'm like, again, going back to kind of my philosophy towards work, if I'm going to be in a space, I'm going in like all the way. I'm throwing myself into the deep end of the pool. So because I want to be that subject matter expert, I want to improve the industry, because in my mind, rising tide lifts all ships. And I have personally, and I know you feel the same way with your company, I feel like I have the biggest, baddest, fastest ship on the planet,
yep,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's the whole thing, is if I can improve the industry for all of us, I know how well I play. That means I win. So going back, I think one of the big talking points that I'm raising at the next meeting is around perception of the industry. How do we improve it? And that's easier said than done. There's a lot of, kind of really deep thought, deep feelings. And so much of it ties back to like, what political party are you on? What's your affiliation on that front? That's going to drive some decision-making. But the reality is temporary staffing firms help people find great work. Yeah. Let's emphasize that point. Let's focus on the positive and try to dispel any of these rumors that are really untrue. And we're seeing legislation trying to, impact what we're able to do.
But we also need to self-police our industry as well, because there are companies that.
I know where you're going, man. Yeah.
We have to be willing to say, hey, that's not how we do it in our industry. And we typically try to stay in these silos, like my company Enforce. We want to just do our work, but we really need to work together and help each other. Like, are you doing this? And I really have pride myself in knowing most of the owners in this East Tennessee region, and just, we're supporting each other. We're, hey, you're okay. It's because we're all going to go through ups and downs.
Yeah. And the thing is, you see those headlines, misclassification on employees. You've got tax issues that are constantly coming up. You've got workers' compensation, like misclass on codes. All these different things that come into play. But I think a quick, rapid push to address those issues, a stance, and that goes back to ASA membership. ASA Code of Ethics, ASA membership really drives this focus and this fact that we want to operate the best means possible, the best way possible, the most ethical way possible. There's always going to be bad actors in every industry. And hopefully those are the ones that are kind of shunned and like, listen, this is not representative of the industry. This is one bad player. So
I would really like to see ASA really focus in on industry-wide training, not necessarily from a revenue standpoint, but a standard standpoint of, if you're going to be a member and you want to have that badge on your website or on your door, then your staff needs to be certified.
Yeah. And funny you're saying this, because I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say this or not. Actually, Just stand by, because
Okay.
there's these credentialings that are coming out soon, and they are pretty intense, almost like kind of master degree level classes in certain aspects of the business.
Well, I mean, but it's because I know people that are ASA members, but they're you know what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
There has to be a standard code that we all live by and trust each other by, that we're all going to play nice in the sandbox and not stab each other in the back.
Exactly.
Me and you have a relationship here in Knoxville. We don't necessarily compete, but we know who each other is, and we go to lunch together. We talk. We don't talk about shop necessarily, but I mean, if you were doing something crazy, I'd say, "Hey, Jakes, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
And you do it.
Andy, man, I just found out this way you can pick up massive cash flow, whatever. You can be like, "Hey, man, hold on a second." Yeah.
But I think that's what I envision, and I love the fact that the ASA is on board with that, and they're trying to push those things. And so, again, this is not ASA advertising. I'm just saying, to have an organization, you call it SIA, ASA. These are beautiful groups.
Another big one. Yeah, they're all there to help band people together. And I'll tell you what, we're even talking about the networking side of it. To me, that's where the money is. And if you really are willing and really interested in building a long-term sustainable business and not like flash in the pan, because those are the people that are doing those kind of nefarious things. That's more flash in the pan. I'm going to make as much money quick,
chasing the dollar.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's great. So when you look at your organization and 5 years down the road, what are things that excite you about AtWork, about what you're doing, that move the needle?
Yeah. So, honestly, the cool thing about AtWork, not only, I always go back to, man, it's awesome to be able to hit a community, help people find work. I can give you that. That's everybody in staffing gets to do that.
Yeah.
One of the unique things that we get to do is we're introducing people who, really sharp folks that want to do something new. They want to experience a new industry. We're helping them enter our industry. We kind of share our excitement for it and our passion for it, help them get into it. And then you see them find success. And it's like, man, they're successful. I mean, we've made multiple millionaires. We've got multiple people who have opened huge operations, built huge operations, who didn't have any, had none of that before. And it's like, man, we helped them accomplish that. It's pretty awesome to be able to say that we've been able to impact that many people's lives in that real way. So that's cool. And we continue to expand. Our focus is growth. We're growing at a rapid pace. We're really pushing. We're doubling down on that franchise owner growth, that recruiting process. We're looking at it a little bit differently. We're looking at it like a direct hire job order, man. We're looking at like it's an order for a franchise owner. How would we search? How would we do it if we were a recruiter?
Yeah. So
taking that approach has been interesting, and it's opened up some doors for us to attack it in novel ways. So I'm excited to see. I'm optimistic that we're going to see some really huge results from it. But it's brand new. I mean, we're just starting this year with it. So.
Well, it's exciting always to hear from you, and for those of you that don't know Jason, you are a person that says, "Hey, call me if you need anything."
Oh, yeah.
I've always loved that. And if you haven't had a chance to talk to Jason, I would shoot him an email. It's great. But all right, so I usually end my little interviews with fun things like, okay, if you're streaming a movie or TV show, what are you watching?
All right, man. I had mentioned this earlier to you, and you know me enough to know I'm a super nerd, man. I love science fiction and fantasy and things of that sort. So really, two things I was so pumped. One, I got kids, so we watched the new Spider-Man movie, the new Ant-Man movie, just awesome. I love the Marvel stuff. But I'll tell you, Foundation, a series on Apple TV. They just released their second. Isaac Asimov. It's his book converted to a series. The second season just dropped. And then Silo on Apple TV, which is one of my favorite authors, a guy named Hugh Howey, which, by the way, random interesting fact, our graphic designer who does a lot of AtWork, who did the Shield logo and so many other things, is actually the illustrator for all of these Hugh Howey books. So super cool. Yeah, he does phenomenal work, but he does the boring corporate stuff too. But he's a cool guy and a Knoxville guy who's now moved back home to New Zealand, but been in Knoxville forever. And then finally, last thing that I'm streaming I'm a YouTube guy, is chess. I'm a huge chess fan and watching the Bullet Chess Championship. It's like literally watching sports for me. It's
chess. Are you?
I mean, Go Vols season ticket holder for a football game, and I'm streaming chess in the off season.
Well, that's a tidbit. I didn't I didn't put 2 and 2 together. On that.
Man. Yep. So again, I warned you I was a nerd, man. So
that's all right. I mean, it's okay. But again, thank you so much for, being in the hot seat for Staffing Stories. And we love always talking to guests like yourself. But it's good that you encourage, our up and coming leaders in the recruiting and staffing industry.
Absolutely, man. If you're interested, do it. It's a phenomenal industry. Andy, thank you so much for having me. Excited to share my story and a little bit about my interests. So.
All right. So this is where we start Rocky Top.
Let's do it. I wish I had it queued up.
I don't have the Rocky Top button, but we'll piss everybody off really quick. Yeah. But hey, thanks a lot for being part of us, and good luck.
Absolutely, Andy. Got it, man. Thanks.
Thanks for tuning into the episode. Staffing Stories is brought to you by 3D-IQ. We are the future of staffing sales. Our solutions are designed to supercharge your sales and 3x placements, all without ever leaving Bullhorn. Direct market, deliver talent, and drive sales with our all-in-one tool designed for the modern recruiter. Visit 3diq.com/stories to learn more. Find Staffing Stories on LinkedIn, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts.